Hello and welcome to my studio. My name is Derek. I'm a professional stained glass artist, and today I'm going to go through a new project with you, how to paint portraits on glass. If you follow my channel, you know I make inspirational tutorials and videos all about stained glass. And one of the biggest questions that I get asked is about painting stained glass. Today is a tutorial all about creating portraits on glass. Any questions you have about the process, type them in the comments below. I love to hear your comments and I try to answer them because at the end of the day, this is a free tutorial for you, the creative community. And by the way, if you like the content on this channel, do the right thing and subscribe and like the videos. It helps the algorithm to push it out to more people like you who want to learn all about stained glass. So without any further ado, let's get into how to create a portrait in glass, starting right now. So today we'll be working on this portrait here, which is a face and shoulders, and I've printed it out in a variety of different contrasts because I'm interested in getting detail but also allowing me to paint over the top of it. This image towards the end here is much more sort of the tonal values that I want to work with, but I've also printed off an acetate version here, is because it lets lots of light through the image, and what you want to be able to see is either your brush marks or your pen marks on the surface of the glass. We're going to be working first of all with some dipping pens. So these are sort of the dipping pens that I use. They're standard dipping pens. I'll leave links somewhere in this video, probably in the links below here, to another tutorial video that I've made about how to use these dipping pens and specifically how to mix the paints. Paints are like this. They're in a little bottle, which is a sealed bottle. There's a seal on top which keeps the liquid fresh. And once you've actually made this paint mixture, it will last for months. The reason it lasts for months is because it's oil based. The oils that we're using are lavender oil and clove oil. The reason we use these two oils is they work really well with our paint medium. And the paints that we're using today to mix with our oils is Tracing Black by Reusch. The Reusch paint's an American paint, is really good. They are really ground down well, and it's like talcum powder soft, which is what you want. Now the combination that you need to mix with your paints is 2 parts clove oil to 1 part lavender oil. The reason we add lavender oil to the mixture is because the lavender oil acts as a thinning agent. It actually thins down the clove oil and allows it to flow from the nib more successfully. Once this is mixed, it has to be left for at least 24 hours to infuse, for all of the pigment to infuse into the oil body, and then it's good to go. Really what we're looking for is the consistency of ink. I'm just using a standard commercial glass cleaner. Vinegar is also very good for cleaning glass. Anything which hasn't got too much perfume in it is absolutely ideal. I love working with a dipping pen. If you've never tried it, I really do recommend you give it a go. It's very intuitive. It's very much like drawing with a pencil and paper, and it feels very similar. When I'm teaching painting classes, a lot of my students really like the precision and accuracy you can get with using a dipping pen. You have to be a little bit careful with using it because it can create sort of runaway blobs on the glass, but at the end of the day, you can work with those and you can use them to your advantage. I'm interested in creating a portrait that is a gestural interpretation of the face rather than a literal photographic reproduction. I'm not really interested in doing that. I'm much more interested in giving a flavor of the dynamism and movement that I see in this image. So from this point, I'm going to stop, and actually I'm going to do a little hack, which is a really useful little tip for you. If you're working with oils, when they're wet, it's very difficult to scratch back because the oil is wet, and what you end up doing is smearing the lines. So if you pop it into the kiln, when the kiln is taken up to about 100 degrees centigrade, and sit it there in that temperature for about 20 minutes or so, what it does is it burns off the oils that are residing in the paint, and it allows you then to take it back out the kiln and scratch back the lines. So you can make corrections and you can make alterations to what you've painted on just now by popping it in the kiln, burning off that oil. I'm not being too precious about the marks that I'm making. I'm really more interested in just the feel of it. I want it to stay loose and free. The challenge is always knowing where to stop, but I think I'm going to stop at this point. I'm happy with the kind of line work, etc. I'm going to pop it into the kiln and fire it on, so then all the lines are permanent and we can then have the freedom to add extra layers to it. So we have fired that first layer, we've got our gestural marks and our line work, and we now look at this with a view to kind of creating that first shading layer, that modeling effect. And this is the really exciting part of it, where I'm really just going to be open to suggestions from the paintwork. I'm going to apply a variety of different textural paint effects. Some of these paint effects you'll find in previous videos. Again, I'll try and link to previous videos showing you how to create these effects rather than going through the whole thing again in this tutorial. There are lots of other tutorials available from my channel which will help you with that. But I'm going to experiment with a variety of different techniques just now to create textural layers, additional shading and modeling. I love this part of the process because really I'm just going to be open to interpretation and what the paint suggests for me. And to paraphrase Forrest Gump, life is a box of chocolates and you never quite know what you're going to get. That's the exciting part. So let's just start putting some paint marks down and see how this image develops. Here I'm just making up a thin wash of Bister Brown with water and a little bit of gum arabic, applying it to the surface of the glass and then using a badger brush to create a nice translucent layer, allowing it to dry, and then I can do some stippling. This is the first half-tone shading layer. It's quite a pale shading layer to start with, just creating some highlights, scratching out some detail to get that first layer just right. We now have created some tonal effects, some shading with the stippling effect. There's quite a lot of kind of detailed stippling work and scratching out, but I want it to be a little bit more random again. So I'm just going to add this element to it. Now this is a knit comb and we're just going to play with it and have fun. I know I've spent quite a lot of time putting the shading together and it could be ruined by putting strokes across it, but I'm happy to do it because I like the randomness of it and I liked it to suggest perhaps ways forward. So let's not be too precious about it. Let's just, start creating some more effects on top of this and see where it takes us. So our first shading layer is now back out the kiln and we're going to add a second shading layer, and I'm going to use this paint here. I don't know if it's in focus there. It's Reusch Oil Medium. Although it says the word oil on here, it's actually a water-based medium. And this has been an absolute game changer for me. I discovered it a couple of years back, and it allows us to paint graduated shading layers, very much like an oil shading layer that you'd get in traditional stained glass. So I use little badger brushes like these. This paint medium is water-based, so you can just wash your brushes afterwards in running water, and it's absolutely fantastic. The great advantage of it is it stays wet for a long period of time, allowing you to move the paint around the surface of the glass. I like to experiment with different approaches to stained glass, and one of the approaches I've used in recent times is creating a mosaic pattern just of cut pieces of coloured glass trapped between two other panes of glass. It just creates a really interesting mosaic effect, and so I wanted to play with that with this portrait as well here, and I love being surprised by results. This is actually looking at it in reverse. I just find it really intriguing, and I think you should allow yourself the opportunity to be surprised by glass and to be surprised by what it can create. And I love the fact that this sort of checkerboard coloured effect creates these random results. So here we have our portrait in glass. I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, so get out there and start playing with glass and paint and be creative. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.